Check 1, 2. All right, Shalawam.
Shalawam.
This is the brothers of GMS New Orleans coming at you with another live camp. But before we get started, as always, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to
YAHAWAH, bahasham, bahasham, Microchip.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word of truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers journey to the end, and to you few sincere Aqua diligently learning the sign of Shalawam.
Shalawam.
And hey, the topic for today's camp is just going to be the fame of the word, because we've had another situation where we've had to change locations. And it's been like that for, pretty much the last year or so. And, I've heard brothers talk in other camps that they've had to change locations. We mentioned it a little bit on last night's camp that the brother in Vegas had his page, cut. Apostle Tahar, YouTube saying, you've reached your daily limit of uploading videos. About a week ago, you had YouTube, shut down for about 1 million users. And I think the brother Amawang Gabar was saying that you could see the video on YouTube, but when you went to click on it, it wouldn't work. So we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, as it says in 2 Corinthians 2, verse 11. We know what all these little tricks and, agendas Esau is ultimately coming with, to lead to the fame of the word, to where these videos are no longer going to be on the highways and byways, and then, these videos are no longer going to be online on any of these different platforms. Or the men of the Lord are no longer going to be on the highways and byways. So, as we always tell you Israelites out there, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, hey, the windows and the doors of mercy are quickly closing. So you better be drinking from these rivers of living waters while you still can, because that spiritual spigot is about to be turned off. And if you're going to be dehydrated in that day, then that's just what it's going to be. But we know that the majority of our people aren't going to get it, until that death by pain. But we're going to start it off with that sequel.
This is Ezekiel 33 and verse 30, and it says, "Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one another, every one to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you, hear what is the word that cometh forth from Yahawah." And
again, that's the majority of our people. Here we see these prophecies coming to pass in real time, to the point where the average everyday person is talking about it. Nero 47 is getting ready to come down in great wrath on you tribes with ICE and these troop deployments. World War III is on the horizon. You've got countries all across the planet talking about a digital ID, which we know is going to lead to the sea hit. But what? Jake is still taking this thing as a joke. Brothers still say, people come on the comment board saying, oh, the Latinos aren't the Northern Kingdom. Oh, the name is Yahusha or all that stuff, saying heathens can be saved. So, hey, that's just what it is. And, I saw another video the elder brother Ariana in the Dallas camp did on going into how, vengeance is of the Lord, but still, F these people. Hey, we're coming into the times where those that didn't take heed of this word are going to die horrific deaths. And you brothers and sisters are going to see it. So, hey, don't feel bad for these people at all, because this word has been preached to them to the four corners of the earth through the unicorn and that internet. So there's going to be no cloak for their maliciousness when that judgment, finally opens up in full. Keep going on.
This is verse 31, and it says, "And they come unto thee as the people cometh, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them.
Keep reading.
For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart goeth after their covetousness."
Hey, as it says, they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they shew much love. And you shalom, drive-by Shalawam Israelites, you jakes on the comments that know that there's a camp around you, but what? You're still fencing. You still, think you have a 5 or a 10-year plan. You really just don't believe. You think this is just entertainment. It's just a bunch of, silly black men with funny garments on.
Or they think it's a religion.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be like, oh, I used to be, like, Hebrew, like, hey, you used to be your nationality? That don't make no sense. That means they never believe.
That's like saying I used to be a human being.
Yeah.
What are you down?
And this is verse 32, and it says, and lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that have pleasant voice, and can play well on the instrument, for they hear thy words, but they do them not.
Verse 33.
Verse 33, and when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them.
Point blank period. And when this cometh to pass, these prophecies, these great judgments of Jacob's trouble, and as it said, and lo, they will come, which, as we can clearly see, they're coming to pass as we speak. Then shall they know that a prophet had been among them. But for the majority of you, 2/3 of our people, at that point, it's going to be too late. The word's gone out. You didn't take heed. So what? The judgment has to come afterwards. But I know you said you were holding a precept. Other brothers hold the precept? Yeah. We'll just start with you and go down the line.
2 Ezra chapter 5, verse 1. Nevertheless, as concerning the token, behold, the day shall come that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in a great number, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith.
And we're living in these days right now, where they which dwell upon the earth are being taken in a great number. Spiritually and mentally, Esau has this veil over these people and has got them confused on many different levels. And then the physical aspect's going to come when the, YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI starts having people being taken in great numbers physically, getting sent back to the spirit world. But as it said, and the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. As you can clearly see, especially in America, this is a faithless, barren land. But as it said, the way of truth shall be hidden. As we're going into the famine of the word, where these video epistles are no longer going to be online, and the men of the Lord are no longer going to be on the highways and byways. And again, with just all this moving around we're doing and all these things happening with these social media platforms, we see that this is at the door. When it's to the point to where your average everyday heathen is has talking points that line up with what the men of the Lord have been prophesying, it's too late. That means, those birth pains are about to lead to, those contractions are about to lead to the birth, this baby of judgment, of Jacob's trouble being delivered. Actually, could you jump to verse 9 and read to verse 11 about Shah?
2 Ezra 5, verse 9. It says, and salt water shall be found in the sweet, and all friends shall destroy one another. Then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into a secret chamber.
And salt water shall be found in the sweet. That can be literal with poison water out here, or what? Waters of things being good, salt being found in, situation just being bad out here. And all friends shall destroy one another, which we can go into many precepts. 2 Ezra 15, 2 Ezra 6, friends shall fight against one another, and a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. We see this whole situation brewing with the SNAP benefits getting cut off on November 1st, and people already talking about, wilding out here. And then you got the Shalawam, then you got the civil unrest brewing out here with, these troop deployments and ICE, not just going after, illegal immigrants, but going after legal immigrants, and they're starting to come after the Southern Kingdom. So everything is just, again, at the door of breaking loose. And, you still have the prophets out here preaching these things to you, but with each passing day, it's dwindling more and more to where the message is going to be completely cut off. And as it said, and then shall wit hide itself, and understanding shall withdraw itself into his secret chamber. Keep going.
And shall be sought of many, and yet not be found.
Mm-hmm.
Then shall unrighteousness and incontinency be multiplied upon earth.
Keep going.
One land also shall ask another, and say, is righteousness that maketh a man righteous gone through thee? And it shall say, no,
And you know, when we get to that Amos, it backs this up. One land asking another, is righteousness that maketh the man righteous gone through thee? Do you have the truth? Do you have answers what's going on? And it shall say no. The famine of the word and just people just going on their own instincts out here, trying to survive, which is exactly what Esau wants. He's creating the chaos to bring about the order so that you people can ultimately get that C-hip in you. And as K. Schwab said, eat the bugs and be happy. But get some of y'all's precepts.
Kind, that's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 3 and 26. And it reads, and I will make thy tongue cleave to thy roof of thy mouth, and that thou shalt be dumb, and shalt not be to them a reprover for their rebellious house.
God.
I got a little bit more. Verse 27, it says, but when I speak with thee, I will open thy mouth, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Lord YAHAWAH, he that heareth, let him hear, and he that forbeareth, let him forbear for their rebellious house.
Hey, what is it saying? I think Revelation 22, you know, let the wicked still be wicked still, let the adulterers still be adulterers still. Pretty much at this point, the only thing we can tell you is, look, hey, if you ain't changed up yet, you might as well just keep going along with it. Now, of course, you know, as long as the prophets are still out, there's still a chance of repentance. But as we can see, our people are stiff-necked and hard-headed, and as I said, a rebellious house. So for the majority of you, you know, we're just preaching to the wind, literally. But as it said in verse 26, and I will make thy tongue to cleave to the roof of thy mouth, that thou shalt be dumb, and shalt not be to them a reprover, for they are a rebellious house. The Lord is going to have it to where what? Spiritually, our tongue's going to cleave to the roof of our mouths, and we're not going to be preaching this word. Because you got to think about it. The men of the Lord are going to be on the run during Jacob's trouble too. So do you think brothers are going to be running around, having the garment on? It's like, hey, what's Revelation 13 and 16 mean? Oh, say, brother, give me the Strongs. That's not how it's going to happen. Which, can somebody give me Jeremiah 3, start about verse 15 real quick? You know, there will, you know, anything's possible with the Lord, and you know there's some that are going to come in at the last moment. So you shouldn't be, you know, putting all your bets on that. You know, sitting on your leads. You know, the men of the Lord will come across some people during Jacob's trouble, and the Spirit will be on them. You know, to you know, give them the word. But for the majority of you people, the only message we're going to have for you is, as it says in 15. Sloppy. I had it backwards. Jeremiah 15. You can start at verse 1. This is the only message we're going to have for the majority of you.
I'm right here. You want?
This is Jeremiah 15 and verse 2, right?
You start at verse 1 and read down 2, 3, Father Bishop. I had it backwards.
This is Jeremiah 15 and 1, and it says, then said Yahawah unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind could not be toward this people.
And that's a heavy statement. The Lord said, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, the prophets, my mind could not be towards this people, because they gave, Israel gave Moses hell, Israel gave Samuel hell, and for the majority of those Israelites, what had to happen? Great judgment. Right. It's no different today. 2/3 of our people are giving the prophets hell. So what? The Lord can only come with that spiritual spanking.
And it says, cast them out of my sight, and let them go forth. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, thus saith Yahawah, such as are for death to death, and such as are for the sword to the sword, and such as are for the famine to famine, and such as are from captivity to the captivity.
And you know, for the majority of you, that's the answer you're going to get. Whither shall we go forth? What do we do? Such as are for death to the death, such as are for the sword to the sword. Hey, getting killed by these troops out here, you know, whether foreign or domestic, such as are for the famine to the famine, you know, starving to death out here, which, you know, on top of these, you know, the looming threat of these government benefits getting cut off, you know, you've got people talking about how the U.S. farm industry is in a state of chaos right now. And then, of course, you know, the elites are going to manipulate the supply chain to create artificial famines out here. So a lot of people are going to starve to death. And and such as are for the captivity, to the captivity, getting sent to these detention centers out here, like what? Alligator Alcatraz, the Cornhusker Clink up in Nebraska, the literal Alcatraz. They're sprouting up detention centers all across the country to send you Israelites there.
They constantly have like job applications, come work at this plant, come work at this. They don't call them concentration centers, but I mean that's clearly what it is, man. We saw it gearing up for it.
Mm-hmm. All the groundwork is being laid, and it's been laid for decades at this point. Our apostles and elders always reference this lady who used to be in the U.S. Army back in the mid-'90s, talking about detention camps and concentration camps and mass death coming to the American citizens. And I think they said in that video she did, she was saying the motto of the NWO is going to be no mercy. And that's YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI speaking through the left hand. His sword, as David said in Psalm 17, verse 13, the wicked. So that's going to be no mercy. YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI is going to be bringing to you Israelites.
Read verse 3. No, this is verse 3. And it says, and I will appoint over them 4 kinds, said Yahweh, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowls of the heaven, and the beasts of the earth to devour and destroy.
So on top of famines and troops and civil unrest and race wars, you're going to have these animals out here attacking and butchering people. This is the nastiness of the scriptures, which we try to warn our people about. But for the majority of you, this is just something you're going to lean against the wall and listen to and think it's just for entertainment. But we'll get back to some of those precepts. We'll just go down the line.
This is
Shalawam.
this is the book of Psalm, chapter 145 and 18. It says, the Lord Yahweh is nigh unto all them that call upon him, to all that call upon him in truth. He will fulfill the desire of them that fear him. He also will hear their cry and will save them. The Lord preserveth all them that love him, but all the wicked will be destroyed.
You can break it down.
You're just backing up the brother, pretty much the Lord has it, set up, to the people that's sitting here, doing his work, that's calling out to him, the Lord is going to protect. Okay, but at the end of the day, the people that's continue to be niggas, that's continue to disregard the Lord, they're set for their judgment, which is going to come at the end of the day.
Yes, the book of Isaiah 55, verse 6, it says, seek ye the Lord while he may be found, call ye upon him while he is near. Verse 7, let the wicked forsake his way, and the righteous man his thoughts, and let him return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon him, and to our powerful he will abundantly pardon. But 2/3 of our people, they're not seeking the Lord. What are they doing? They stop and they mock. They hate the message that we send. And we tell them, like, look, you don't seek the Lord in these times while he's near, while his hand is out. The prophets, the men of the Lord, you will be destroyed. And that's going to be a sad case of Jacob's trouble. Just like that brother, you made a word, like, it's a scripture in Jeremiah, I think it's chapter 7, it says, lift up not cry, pray not for these people, because they had a chance to repent. They had a chance to take heed. What are they doing? All man's wickedness, scoffing, all type of
Kind of read verse 11. That Isaiah 55.
Isaiah 55, verse 11 reads, so shall my word be that goeth forth out my mouth, and it shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereunto I sent it.
Backing up that Ezekiel 33, we started off with. In 33, what did it say? For when these things shall come to pass, and lo, they will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. And as it says right here, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall accomplish all that which I please, and will not return unto me void. So the fame of the word is coming. And what comes after the prophet's not speaking is that great judgment, which there is no escaping that. You've got a lot of Israelites out there that like to say, oh, we've been through enough. Jacob's trouble already happened. Well, if that's the case, then why, when it talks about Jacob's trouble, it says it's been a time like no other? You Jake's in for a rude awakening. And for the majority of you, you're not going to get woken up spiritually until those troops are kicking in the doors and sticking that bayonet in your face.
This is Amos 8, it started at 11. Behold, the days come, said Yahweh power, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the word of Yahweh.
And hey, that's the ultimate, family of the word scripture. As it said, behold, the days come, which these days, you can say we're in these days right now. They just haven't fully manifested themselves because, you've got all these different things taking place to what? Make it harder and harder for the men to preach the word. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land. So that's coming too, a physical famine. Not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. Keep going on.
Verse 12. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from north even unto the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it.
Backing up that second Esdras 5. One land shall say to another, is wisdom gone through thee? And they shall say, no. Unless Yahawah bahasham YAHAWASHI puts it to where you come across a man of the Lord. For the majority of you people, once the word's cut off, like Michael Jackson, this is it. You're not going to find it, and you're going to have to navigate yourself through Jacob's trouble without knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be your stability. So you're going to be completely unstable out here. Read verse 13 now.
In that day shall the fair virgins and young men faint for thirst.
Hey, not having those sweet waters. It's going to be salty in that day because you're not going to be able to find anything. You're going to be spiritually dehydrated. You're going to have to get it how you live. We'll come back to that one.
Yeah, this on Proverbs 1. I'm gonna start at 24. It says, because I have called and ye have refused, I stretched out my hand and no man regarded me. But ye have said not all my counsel and would none of my reproof.
Which verse were you at?
24.
Start at verse 20, Baba Bashar.
This Proverbs 1 and 20, it says, wisdom cried without, she uttered her voice in the streets.
Keep going.
She cried in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city, she uttered her words, saying, how long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorn, and fools hate knowledge.
Keep going.
Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you.
Which is what Yahawah bahasham YAHAWASHI is doing by what? Having this mouthpiece out here. The prophets making his words known unto you. And as it said in verse 20, wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief places of concourse, in the opening of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words with what? The brothers out in the, the agora, these major places of concourse in these cities, which, we were at, downtown before that New Year's situation happened. But, you got brothers in the highways and hedges as well, out in the wilderness, out in places that are less populated, preaching this word. So there's really no excuse for you Israelites out here that say, oh, I didn't hear the word. What am I going to do? And, as we mentioned last night, with your Kendrick Lamars, your Kodak Blacks, these major, Jake celebrities that our people look up to, even they mention, the Hebrew Israelites. So this word has really gone out. So there's really no cloak for your maliciousness. That's why the judgment is going to be that horrific. Because as it says in, I think it's Luke chapter 9, he that knew my word shall be beaten with me. Oh, you got it? I get it.
It's St. Luke chapter 12, verse 47. It says, I'm going to read in the KJV and in the NLT. It says, and that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes.
And that's straight to the point. Whether you put your hand to the plow or you've heard this word, you know the will of the Lord. As it said in that Proverbs, 1 and 20 to 23, the Lord made his voice known unto you in the chief places of concourse and his wisdom crying within the streets. So, with that being the case, you're going to get beaten with many stripes.
In the NLT, it says, a servant who knows what his master wants, but isn't prepared and doesn't carry out those instructions will be severely punished.
Will be severely punished, point blank period. And as it says in 2 Ezra chapter 9, then shall they know it after death by pain. Death by pain to the nerve endings. You know, and it says in Isaiah 2 that I will put their strong delusions on them and their fears. So the very things you fear of going out by, that's more than likely how YAHAWAH bahasham YAHAWASHI is going to take you out. You're afraid a pack of dogs ripping you to pieces, probably going to get torn to pieces by a pack of dogs. You know, you're afraid of drowning, you're going to be on the run, you're going to have a bunch of troops or whatever behind you. The only thing in front of you is some deep-ass water. So you're going to have to make some hard decisions. But,
Yeah, this back in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 24, it says, because I have called and ye have refused, I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have said not all my counsel and would none of my reproof.
you can break it down too.
Son, I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear comes. Okay, because that's what those people are doing now. They're not listening to the Lord's words when he's preaching to his prophets. Okay, so when those things is happening to him in Jacob's trouble, he gonna laugh as they laughing now. I'm gonna jump down to 28. It says, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Okay, because that's when they're gonna decide to try to find out where the prophet's at. But by that time it's too late. What you got?
You know, going back to that Jeremiah 15, whither shall we go? To the sword, to the sword, to the famine, to the famine, to the death, to the death. That's going to be the only answer, you know, the majority you are going to receive when these things come to pass. You holding one? Good.
All right, this is Sirach, chapter 5, verse 7. Make no tarry to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and thou security, thou shalt be destroyed and perish in the day of vengeance.
You can break it down.
Yeah, so basically, seeing the times we're in, man, so we in the end times, where all hell can break loose. If you want to be covered, ain't no put it off, man. You know, especially, man, while, this truth is still being pushed out. They got to keep taking heed, you know, hearken. If not, they will be destroyed while all hell breaks loose.
Straight to the point.
I was just going to back him up.
You got it.
For the precept real quick. This is Ecclesiastes 12:1. It says, remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. And we know we're basically surpassing that time where basically we're entering into the evil time, man. Okay? And the people have a chance. They have an opportunity to come back to the Lord. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Because what do people do? They wait until the last minute to come and serve the Lord in the first place. Right? They wait till they're sick, right? Until they're bedridden, or when they're in dire distress. But the Lord's not going to answer them this time, man. He's not going to do what he did before for the nation of Israel, man. He's only seeking the elect of the nation of Israel. All right?
Somebody give me Luke chapter 14. You can start at verse 16 and read down to about verse 24. Just to back what those brothers are saying. Because, you know, the doors of mercy are still open. So, you know, put not off day to day to, you know, come to the Lord. Because, you know, this spiritual supper, you know, this feast is being prepared as we're about to get in this parable that YAHAWASHI gave. So, you know, freely eat. Because once the food's gone, hey, the party's over.
You said from 16 to 24, right? This is the book of St. Luke, chapter 14, and verse 16. And it reads, then said he unto him, a certain man, it's in red letters, a certain man made a great supper and bade many.
YAHAWAH bahasham YAHAWASHI. Have this great supper being made right now. You know, the other brother Yakina says all the time, you know, this is like a spiritual buffet. You know, we feed brothers, and then brothers that come in, it's their job to feed the men that come in after them. But what we're constantly doing is feeding this spiritual bread and this spiritual water, which is YAHAWASHI, as he said in John, unto the people. And YAHAWASHI's message is what? Well, YAHAWAH bahasham YAHAWASHI's message is what? Repentance. Come back unto me. Because, you know, there's no other way you're going to be getting out of this thing but through me. Audio's good? Yeah, we good.
Verse 17, and it reads, and sent his servant at supper time to say unto them that were bidden, Come, for all things are now ready.
Hey, it's ready right now. You know, brothers, some brothers are putting up their 3 videos a week. Some brothers are putting up 7 videos a week. Some brothers are putting up 3 videos a day, 7 days a week. So this word is constantly, somebody's gonna have to get that Psalms 19. This word is constantly going out, you know. We'll just get that Psalms 19. We start at verse 1.
Real quick, this is to back up the table. This is Psalms 23 and 5. It says, Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over.
And that's a beautiful precept. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Going to Isaiah 19, this is this altar in the midst of Egypt that those that are crying and sighing unto YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI are, you know, preaching from. And as it also said, God, it's all good. As it said, thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. You know, what do you make upon an altar? A sacrifice. And our bodies are these sacrifices upon these altars, upon these tables, in the midst of our enemies, chain them down. Thou anointest my head with oil, which is this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. My cup runneth over. So this cup is running over. Again, brothers are doing videos. We're doing our camp right now. Brothers are going to be doing videos an hour from now, 20 hours from now, all throughout the day at all times. So there's no excuse. The supper is open, and it's a free supper too. It's a all-you-can-eat buffet, and you don't have to pay $20.99 to get in.
You don't have to pay $2,000. Bring us $1,200.
Oh wait. Oh yeah. I want that thousand. You just didn't hear me. Kyle, you can jump to that Psalms 19 and get back to that loop.
This Psalms 19 and 1. It says, The heavens declare the glory of the Most High, and the firmament showeth his handiwork.
You know, these satellites, the unicorn, out in the second heavens, low orbit space, beaming these internet signals from one end of the earth to the other, showing the works of YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI through his men.
It says, Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge.
So day and night, every hour of the day, this word is going out. This cup filled with oil is running over. You got so much oil running over, if you were to walk, you slip on it. That's how much oil is going out.
Yeah, brothers, be in London, going live early in the day. It's the afternoon over there. You wake up, hey, brothers already live.
You got some brothers that, wake up at 3 in the morning. They got work in a couple of hours, but the spirit's just on. It's like, man, I just got to do a lesson. Like, it's no excuses.
It says, there is no speech, speaking of no excuses, there is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard.
You got brothers in the Philippines speaking their language, brothers speaking in Spanish, in sign language. Yeah, if you got a brother speaking in sign, multiple brothers speaking in sign language, what are we doing? Right. And isn't that the brother in Holland too? So it's sign language in Dutch. What?
You didn't take no excuse.
It says, their line is gone out through all the earth, their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun.
And when you're on the internet, what are you? Online. You're online. Their line has gone out through the earth, through the unicorn, through this world wide web, this web or this net, like the fishermen, to catch, the elect of. And definitely read that verse 5. As it said, and their words unto the end of the world, in them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun. This knowledge, the knowledge of YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI.
Which is as a bridegroom coming out of his chamber, and rejoiceth as a strong man to run a race.
And going back to that parable, YAHAWASHI, we know he is that bridegroom gathering together what? The virgins with those lamps filled with oil, who are what? Waiting for the marriage, or what? The supper, as we're going into with this parable. And best believe those that are hearing the word, when they get that invitation to the supper, they're coming to it. But as it says in this parable, as it's going to go into, there are those that have made excuses, as the brother brought out, tarrying to turn to the Lord day by day. Kind of, you got to go way back to that, Luke.
It's Romans chapter 10, verse 18. But I say, have they not heard? Question mark. Yes, verily, their sound went into all the earth, and their words unto the ends of the world.
Hey, have they not heard? Their sound has gone unto the ends of the earth, and their word. I know you were holding one.
It's Proverbs 22:3. It says, a prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. Because the Shai brought out in that Proverbs 1, how long the simple ones love simplicity. And then Kabali brought out the Sirach, 5 7. Yeah, because in your security, you're going to be destroyed. For what? Being simple. Because the word of the Lord, is going throughout the earth. Nobody want to take heed. You got it.
And it said what? A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. That goes into what? The supper, being invited to the supper. I'm not going to deal with the things of the world, but what? I'm going to go into the safety of this house and enjoy this supper. You know, eating off the spiritual words of YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI, being nourished therewith.
Kind of back in St. Luke, chapter 14. I'm going to read 17 again. And it reads, it says, and sent his servant at supper time to say to them that were bidden, come, for all things are now ready. And they all with one consent began to move to make excuse. The first said unto him, I have brought a piece of ground, and I must needs go and see it. I pray thee, have me excused.
Yeah, I got to pick up an extra shift on Saturday because I just bought this one-bedroom studio apartment that I need to pay the rent on. Keep going.
Verse 19, and it reads, it says, and another said, I have brought 5 yoke of oxen, and I go to prove them. I pray thee, have me excused.
Yeah, I just bought that G-Wagon. I just bought that Land Rover. I got to pay this car note, so I got to pick up some extra shifts. And then, when you do come to camp, you say, oh, this isn't the camp caller. I'm leaving that at that.
I'm going to come do the work at that May 30.
Verse 20, and it reads,
here's the hot button issue right here.
Verse 20, it reads, it says, and another said, I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come.
Hey, I have married a wife, and I cannot come. Jake putting all his energy into the woman. The woman, the kids can't make it to camp because you gotta take them out on Saturday because the woman's begging you for your time. You popping the woman on a Friday night, so I'm unclean. Knowing that camp's the next day, just excuse after excuse after excuse.
Verse 21, so that servant came and shewed his Lord these things. Then the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in hither the poor and the maimed, and the halt and the blind. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room.
Keep going.
The Lord said unto his servant, go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled.
So as it said, so the servant came and shewed his Lord these things, and the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, go out quickly into the streets and the lanes of the city, and bring hither the poor and the maimed and the halt and the blind. Jake out here that is spiritually messed up. And the servant said, Lord, it is done as thou hast commanded, and yet there is room. What does it also say in the scriptures? The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. Hey, there's a lot of work to still be done out here. As Apostle Tahar says, there should be a camp on every street corner in America. But as you can see, it's always ever been a few good men preaching the word. Verse 23, and the Lord said unto his servant, go out into the highways and hedges, the highways and byways, the chief places of concourse, even the hedges, the places that are less populated, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. I'll just read verse 24. For I say unto you, that none of those men which were bidden shall taste of my supper. And that is not where you want to be. To have heard this word, and brother can also give me that parable of the talents. To have heard this word and had the opportunity to preach it, but what? You just didn't take heed and you put it to the side. You thought you had I got plenty of time. They're talking about a digital ID, but it's not to see him. The prices are still somewhat cheap. No, you may not even, you got to think about it like this. You may not even make it to Jacob's trouble with that mindset. Your Jacob's trouble might be the next day when the Lord comes upon you as a thief in the night, and that job or that woman or whatever you're neglecting the Lord for. You're driving to go deal to it, you get in a wreck, and you go right up before the Heavenly Father. That's not the hinge you want to have. But I know some brothers probably hold some precepts too. Kind of who get some of y'all's brothers' precepts and go that parable.
Real quick, this is the book of Ephesians.
You can break it down too.
Ephesians 5 and 15. It says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. All right, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is." So, redeeming the time. And I got the word here in online etymology. Strong's G 1805. It says to make wise and safe use of every opportunity for doing good, so that the zeal and well doing are, as it were, the purchase money by which we make the time of our own. It's like make the time our own. Okay, but again, we have this opportunity to do it right the first time. So we shouldn't have any type of excuses, letting a woman get in the way, letting money get in the way. When we know that this is the opportunity of a lifetime, it's only going to come on.
And when you say once, you got to put emphasis on once. Yeah. This is a once in an eternity lifetime, not just this lifetime, but for the rest of eternity. Because Abaratazai, brothers and myself, you sincere brothers that are doing the word are of that elect number. But whoever that number is, once they're signed, sealed, and delivered, that's going to be your testimony for the rest of eternity. There's going to be no do-overs.
Like you say, this is the very last lifetime you're going to have to prophesy against the heathen. The heathen in the kingdom are going to be in total subjection. So this is the last time that we're going to be the underdogs. We're going to have to warn our people. We're not going to have to warn nobody in the kingdom of heaven. We're not going to worry about nothing, man. So this is the final chance to do it.
This is Daniel 12 and verse 2, and it says, "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt."
And that dust represents confusion, which before we came into the truth, we were all in a state of confusion, calling ourselves by these bywords, believing in that American dream. But when we woke up, we came out of the dust. And as it says, and many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life. Those that were bidden to the supper and came to the supper and became, guests at the supper to enjoy that food, ultimately being of that elect number and being in the kingdom with that eternal memorial of righteousness. And then some to shame and everlasting contempt. So just as the elect are going to have that eternal memorial in the kingdom, those that, fanned the hand at the word, didn't spend this grace period to take heed to the word, your reputation the rest of the kingdom is going to be somebody who gave up, somebody who put this world, who put Esau before the Lord. Yeah, you're going to be good, you're going to be good in the kingdom, you're going to be at peace and everything. But when you see the elect and, the reputation that they're going to have, that's going to make you think in your mind, well, and especially if you were around the men of the Lord, if you knew of the word, how much more is that going to sting? And that's just, as it said, everlasting contempt. And I think I speak for all the brothers here. I'm trying my damn hardest to get that everlasting, righteous memorial and not that everlasting contempt. Because I don't know bros understand how long eternity is. Try to think about when eternity ends. Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy because, everything you experience in this world, whether it's heartache, depression, or whatever you're going through, they have the same time heals all. You eventually get over it. You're not going to eventually, in the kingdom, just You're like, okay, I'm part of 144,000. I know that's it. All right, you're still gonna be good. You're still gonna be Israelite. You're still gonna be rich or whatever. But as a man, you want to be like at the top.
Especially average, top con.
Yeah.
I would say it will be above average. We'll be just average Jake. Will be above.
No Jake man, Israelite man, Negro, Latino, or Native American has ever been satisfied with average. And all these brothers here had aspirations in their lives, and whatever they wanted to put their heart into, Jake wanted to be the top of his field in. So now with this truth, the top king, the real master of the universe, put your heart towards it.
All the 144,000, they all gonna be alphabet, top of the line. You're not fucking with that.
Uber alphabet.
Yeah.
Go infinity man. I'm in there. Exactly. All man. God, you got it.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 44. One of my favorite chapters. It says, let me get to the point. Sirach 44 and 7. It says, all these were honored in their generations and were the glory of their times. There be of them that have left the name behind them, that their praises might be reported. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished, as though they have never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. Right? So what side do you want to be on? All right, do you want to be on that side of waking up into contempt, everlasting shame, or do you want to be of those men who did it right and get the basking of glory and serve with the Lord? But a little bit more, it says, but these were merciful men whose righteousness has not been forgotten. With their seed shall continually remain a good inheritance, and their children are within the covenant. Their seed standeth fast, and their children for their sakes. Their seed shall remain forever, and their glory shall not be blotted out.
We haven't gotten that far in there, so it's going to be a little spoiler since we brought up that show Invincible. There's a scene where the character Omni-Man is telling his son, thank Mark, because Mark, if you watch the show, you got these characters called the Viltrumites, which are the Israelites. They're like they're supermen, a race of supermen that go out conquering planets. And Omni-Man was sent to Earth to take over Earth, but then he had a son who's got the same powers, but he's lived amongst the humans, so he got compassion for the humans. So Omni-Man was trying to convince him, look, we live for thousands of years. He's like, the older we get, the slower we age. And he told him, in 500 years, what are you going to have that you care about? Everything's going to be dust.
Right.
You got to have that mindset in the kingdom. And I know you got to have that mindset right now. And I know you've been going heavily into that Matthew 19. When Peter asked YAHAWASHI, what shall we get for forsaking everything now? YAHAWASHI told him, look, those that forsake mother, brother, father, lands, wives, children on this side shall receive 100-fold in the kingdom. So whatever your desires have been, what is 100-fold of that? You can't even comprehend what that is. And another one, I believe it's in 1 John, when it said, when he shall appear, we shall be like him. God, you might have to get that one real quick. That's one of my favorites. Get that. And somebody get that Zechariah. It's in Zechariah 13 where it says the house of David shall be in. You know which one I want.
Yes. This 1 John chapter 3, and I'll start at the top. Behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed on us, that we should be called the sons of the Most High. Therefore, the world knoweth us not, because it knoweth him not.
Hey, that's a very exclusive club. To be of the elect on this side, where the majority of our people are going to get cut off, and they're not going to take heed to it.
It says, beloved, now are we the sons of the Most High, and it does not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is.
It does not yet appear what we shall be. Brothers are 5'8", 5'9", 5'3". Brothers balling, brothers got health ailments. We just look like feeble men. Then on top of that, the reputation we have is, niggers, spics, time toes, the worst of society. But within that, YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI has his chosen men. As it says in 1 Corinthians, I've made the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. These feeble forms with the mighty spirits in them to confound this world. And then when YAHAWASHI comes, that's when the body is going to catch up to the spirit. When we get those new spiritual bodies, and we shall appear as he is. And I was just going to say, and as it says in Romans, being joint heirs with him.
I was going to say, that's the spirit that Apostle Paul wrote that, because his appearance was contemptible. People read his letters and thought he was like a giant man, but he was just a regular Jake, man. Same with us.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 8. I'm going to start at 16. It says,
Start at verse 1.
Verse 16, it says, the Spirit itself bears witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High.
And because, especially with the prophets, the spirit of the prophets is subject to the prophets. What the prophets did in old times, prophesying both against many kingdoms of great evils and wars and pestilences, we're here doing the exact same thing. The Spirit bears witness who the prophets are, and just Israel in general. The characteristics that our people had, whether righteous or wicked, bearing witness who they are.
Verse 17, it says, and if children, then heirs of the Most High, and joint heirs with Hamashiach, if so be that we suffer with him, that we may also be glorified together.
And the great sacrifice, the innumerable sacrifice that YAHAWASHI made for us, what was his reward? Sitting at the right hand of the Father, waiting to come and reclaim his kingdom, to where everything, as it says in Revelation 5, above the heavens, on the earth, and beneath the earth, we're going to bow down at his feet. So if we're going to be joint heirs to him, that means existence is going to bow down to our feet as well. Keep reading that. Read verse 18, and then you got yours.
In verse 18, it says, for I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us.
Straight to the point. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed in us. Back in that John, and he shall appear, and we shall be like him. And what you got brothers, 20s, 30s, 40s, and in the grand scheme of things, several decades of being alive is nothing compared to an eternity of peace and dominion and rulership. So with this little time we have to make our calling and election sure, hey, make the most of it, because this is the last opportunity to do so. And going back to that Daniel chapter 12, you want to wake up to that everlasting praise and honor, and not to that everlasting contempt. Before you get yours, can you read that verse, that next verse in that Daniel?
This is Daniel 12:3, and it says, and they that be wise shall shine as bright as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever.
And you shall shine and be bright like the stars of heaven forever and ever, having that glow, that eternal glory about you. I often think about that dream that brother had a couple of years ago, where it was the kingdom of heaven, and he said he was just flying in the dream, and he flew, he was flying, and you had all the other Israelites, in the kingdom, and one of them said, that's one of them, and he said as he was flying over them, all of them bowed. Like, just imagine a wave of people just bowing and lowering their head as you fly over them. That's the glory that awaits the 144,000. But to get that glory, you have to do the work. And as it just said in that Romans 8, whatever little baby shit you're going through right now, flush it down the toilet, because we've got eternal glory waiting for us. Kind of.
You alluded to this a few times, I just wanted to read it. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 18, verse 9. The number of a man's days at most are 100 years. As a drop of water unto the sea, and a gravel stone in comparison of the sand, so are 1,000 years to the days of eternity.
So 1,000 years is nothing like a drop of a pebble in the sea to eternity. Like, just for a second, think about eternity. Like, just think, man, living for eternity. But so that means, like, you know, if we're at that number, we're gonna be looking back 6 million years from now, being like, man, you remember when you had those braids in your beard? You remember when the brother did this? You know, the brother liked to eat 2 salmon plates. He was bugged that. You were bugged out.
With some salmon plates came with a piece.
God.
But you know, it takes a great deal of faith to even think about eternity. That's how we know these other camps ain't got it, man. The biggest, what was this, the Sakari, they said they're gonna die in the kingdom, we're not really gonna live. They had some nigga on the comment board that was like, yeah, I always knew eternity wasn't real, man. You would just get bored. Like,
What the?
how you gonna get bored in the kingdom? Like, showing you, the Lord set up these different camps to just attract reprobates, man.
That's
not
a
gonna
nigga
get bored
mindset.
in the kingdom of heaven. Not gonna have an iPhone.
Yeah, lights out.
Yeah.
I think his lights might actually be out right now.
Might be dead somewhere.
Wait, are we gonna have iPhones and laptops in the kingdom? Or that?
Call a brother. Well, you do like, come on now, bro.
Oh, my battery's dead. Let me charge it. Or this. And whoever Jake that said this, you're an infamous Jake. You're gonna be one of those Daniel 12:2s that's gonna have that eternal memorial of contempt and shame, where you said, well, if the white man's in slavery, how are we gonna have jobs in the kingdom?
Oh my God.
We're gonna find you, all right? You're gonna be a brother's grandson. We're gonna find you. We're gonna clown you. That's how it is.
Hey, you remember you said that? You don't remember? You go video.
We ain't gonna get on him too hard, because you know Jake gonna have to live with that. Jake gonna have to eat that. You know, that's an example of you don't want to have that memorial going into the kingdom.
Jake loves to grill, man. Jake loves to
Yeah.
That's part of our culture.
It's our culture, yeah.
That's who we are. We're gonna clown you. But then it's all love. That's
Right.
Yeah, some more than that.
Yeah. This is wasn't the
Man's
sound.
about the bus over here. I see his feet shaking.
This is wasn't the Psalm 3:4, and it says, "For though they be punished in the sight of men, God, yet is there a hope full of immortality, and have been chastised and have been a little chastised, they shall greatly be rewarded. For the Most High proved them and found them worthy for Himself." You know, pretty much going into, you know, the men that's going and going through all the tribulations and chastisements. You know, it's a great reward behind that. You know what I'm saying? Because we all seeking for that immortality. You know, the righteous bodies. You know, the dominion of the kingdom and stuff like that. You know, we'll all get it. And it says, "As gold in the furnace, have you tried them and received them as a burnt offering? And in the time of their visitation, they shall shine and run to and fro like sparks among the stubble. And they shall judge the nation and have dominion over the people, and their lords shall reign forever." You know, this is,
Like I say, running like sparks through the stubble, running through these heathens, running through them and making them spontaneously combust because you're running so fast by them. As I said, rule over the heathen. We're about to have all these nations underneath our feet for the rest of eternity. Look at how much wealth Esau got just ruling over one nation. We're going to be ruling over the other 17 nations, getting free labor for 1,000 years off of them. So imagine that wealth.
then, you know, from us just being in the captivity and seeing how we being ruled, you know, in the back of Jake's head, they always saying, man, if I was in your position, I would have did it way better. So we're going to do it 10 times better and with righteousness and 100-fold for eternity.
Hey, to back you up on Jake doing it better, you know, all of us got microplastics in our brain the size of a spoon. This nigga got microplastics and everything in your testicles. You know, you got turtles getting herpes, and this is the man that's in control of the earth right now. So imagine when Jake in righteousness is in control of the earth.
Man, they already want that right now. Now everybody look at Jake, they say, oh man, they the salt of the earth. You know what I'm saying? Without us, it just would be bland. It would be like some unseasoned chicken. Nobody would eat that shit. That's shit.
And Esau, as much as Esau likes to say, go back to Africa, which we're not from Africa, Esau would never let Israel go because that's where he gets his power from. Any nation that had Israel underneath them was unstoppable. It's just the average loser out here. An Edomite that's worried about a 9 to 5 and his 401k. That's like, oh, niggas go back to Africa.
Who's gonna watch the NBA without Jay? The NFL without Jay? Boxing, MMA, music. Who's listening? He saw make music, man.
That's beautiful you said that, because even BG, the real BG, you know, he was saying, they were asking, so, you know, with AI, it's going to replace everything, right, with robots. And he was like, oh, yeah, you know, for manual labor and stuff like that, which is what you Edomites do. But he said, you know, for sports, we're going to still have people do that. Even he was like, man, I don't want to see robots play sports. I want to see Jake play sports.
Yeah, Jake running the Jake, giving aneurysms, concussions, and all of that. That's they need to love, man.
But BG, even his daughter's got a Jake right now, so you just threw in your own kingdom, you suck.
Yeah, the Rothschilds, his daughter too, you know, who the damn rapper from the third world, man.
From down here.
Did they kill him? Did he had a
He's still alive. Jay electronically, he's still alive.
Oh, okay.
They take care of business.
How you, the ruler of the planet and the people you oppressing is giving it to your daughter. That ain't gonna happen in the kingdom.
Edomites aren't even gonna see Israelite women. That'll be the last thing you ever see. Yeah, your eyes will continue.
You know what I'm talking about.
You see an Israelite woman by accident, you're gonna pluck out your own eye. That's how serious it is.
Hey, it's like my boy said in Reservoir Dogs. He was like, if you kill me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize. If you see an Israelite woman in your dreams, you better wake up and apologize.
You gotta look at it. Edom, freak ass, he ain't looking for no one.
They're gonna be looking for Jay in the kingdom. They're gonna be trying to look underneath the garment. That's the reprobate that's ruling over.
Don't bow that close to me, man. Back up.
That's what that.
This
Cut.
the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and 30, and it reads, it says, the poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for his riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty? Just going back to what these brothers was, saying, hey, nothing will be how it is without Jake. So how much more in the kingdom, man? Hey, this devil is low and he's all the way at the top. So what about when he's at the bottom in the kingdom of heaven? Man, he's gonna be lower than low. He's gonna return back to that base of base men. He's gonna be the base of base. If that's the thing,
And you made a beautiful point. I can't remember how it came up in the conversation, but I forgot the point. but pretty much, just backing up what the brother was saying. Oh, now I remember. It's like with any other nation outside of Esau, you can, even though these nations hate Jake, the one thing everybody has in common is they hate you so-called white people. You can start a conversation with a Moabite or a so-called Chinese person, an Ishmaelite or Arab, and it gets on Esau, and we can come to some common ground. And that's why while you're in your rulership, everybody hates you. They just go along to get along because you're in power. But as the brother brought out in that Sirach, when a man who's in riches is hated in those riches, when you're in your poverty, you're going to be looked at as less than nothing.
Yeah. All of the heathen, they're going to see what we do to Esau, and they're going to be grateful to YAHAWASHI that they're not Edomites. Even though they're going to be beneath us, they're still going to be over you. It's the same way, like when slavery was in its heyday, these heathen were like, look, at least I'm not a nigger. I'm oppressed, I'm broke, but I'm not like this nigga right here. In the kingdom, they're gonna be like, damn, I'm fucking old white, but at least I'm not an Edomite.
All these punching his at least I'm a Moabite. Man. And if I can say it real quick, and they're gonna go even harder on you Edomites because they're still gonna be getting into slavery, but they'll be like, man, I followed your red ass looking down on the children of Israel, and now they're beating the shit out of me because of you. Everybody's going to be wanting a piece of Esau in the kingdom.
Especially Amalek.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Amalek is going to be the worst.
And they're the most evil.
Yeah.
Hey.
People hate Amalek now. Oh, yeah. When you go to the comments of these videos, like, the the small hats,
everything.
the chosen people, like saying it mockingly.
Giving praises to the Austrian painter.
Yeah, and even people like around us, some people walking by, you just hear like regular conversation. That's the name that they bring up the most. I hate them with a heart, stuff like that.
People be pissed on
Bricks
on him, bro.
Man, hey, Amalek's a bad boy. Amalek's got that dog in him when he's going against women and children. So
And dogs.
So imagine, as we talked about before, the kingdom is going to be worse than Esau's worst nightmares because it's going to be a bunch of 14-foot jakes with big beards and afros, yoked out like the Hulk with spiritual powers
And authority.
and a kind.
Yes.
That's the Edomite's worst nightmare. A strong Jake with a beard and authority. You can't tell him nothing. Because he really longs for our souls. It's not enough for him to have all the wealth in the world. He wants to be able to tell Jake, do this, believe that. You had that one Edomite, vocab alone. He's obsessed with getting Jake to go back to Jesus. That's his whole, he's dedicated his whole life to try to get Jake to go back to plantation Christianity, which you dedicated your life to try to upset prophecy. You finished.
You're a true enemy of the cross.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I know you like that one in Baruch, so hold that on you. The enemies have surely seen your shame, so shall they see your glory. But y'all brothers hold anything? It's kind of y'all gonna add that to I get excited.
His Hispanic side coming out.
Vocab when they're small to even make an Edomite 12 tribe chart. That's
I saw that.
crazy and delusional.
I saw that shit.
It is, man.
But he trying to be like Jake. He trying to be a rapper and all that.
He's trying to be a prophet, I guess.
And I remember one time he was, and he's still trying to sneak in to be Israel. He said, yeah, my dad's a whatever, but he's like, my mom's Italian, so, I'm full of that ragu. No, you're not. Not at all.
Nice try, Henry.
You're full of that mayonnaise. You're full of that spoiled mayonnaise. But y'all brothers got yours pretty stuff. You can bring it down too.
No,
I'm nervous.
I'm trying to get it together.
I'll grab this real quick, going into the brothers. What you said earlier, being likened unto King David. This is Zechariah 12 and verse 8. It says, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David.
So the feeblest among Israel is going to be as David. And when we go into David and his mighty works, he was unstoppable. He was invincible. It said he hopped over walls like he had hinds feet. He could bend iron bows. The elder brother Yakina brings up all the time when the apostles went to a museum that had some ancient artifacts. There was a shield, David's shield, and he said David was on the shield doing a headlock to a lion, and he said David on the shield looked like the Hulk. Can you imagine it said David played with lions cubs, and bears. And so for fun, David was playing with bear cubs and lion cubs.
Swing.
Yeah, I think also said his crown was like the size of a basketball for 50 pounds. And his sword was like 75 pounds or something.
I believe it's is it 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel 12, where it talks about him when he took the Ammonite king crown, and they say they weighed a talent. Then I would look the talent up and it's 75 pounds. Oh my God.
Can you imagine walking around with 70 pounds on your head? Like nothing? Like you just chilling on your throne with 70 pounds on your head.
Yeah, our stature.
So that shows the strength of our people in the past. And David was the Israelite of Israelites. So the feeble amongst us is going to be as David. Now let's see what the part 2 says.
and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them.
And the house of David shall be as God. What does that even entail? Like, and the powers that come with it, from ever, ever. Yep. You got it. All right.
This is the book of Luke 16. I'm going to start at verse 19. This going to, like you said, how Amalek will be a slave in the kingdom, and how we're going to read the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. Verse 19. There was a certain rich man which was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores. Lazarus represents Israel as your name. And that certain rich man is Amalek, who we talked about earlier. They got all the riches on the earth right now.
God, those swords, those dogs licking the swords of these heathens, put the gas stations and the Chinese chicken joints in the weed shops into our communities, feeding us poison while they live in the suburbs, living fat off of our misery.
Verse 21. Desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table.
Which is what Jake gets, from the lowest Jake even to the highest Jake. You have some of these Jake celebrities that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but what's that to a trillionaire? Right. I mean, trillion doesn't even compute with these elites. When you control the earth, your wealth doesn't have a number on it.
They bring the money.
Yeah.
They don't even have millions. So look at Kanye West. He went from a billionaire to a millionaire overnight. How can you do that? You have billions of dollars.
Talking against the rich man.
No, I was just gonna say he really didn't even have access to his money. Really, that's the type of things that Esau does with his contractual stuff. The fine print.
That's a lot of these.
I was gonna say Esau could turn off the banks anytime. Go get your money. They got armed guards. Chase, J.P. Morgan. Put your money with Esau, it still is.
That's his face. When your face is on the money, like you're through. If you're not the nation whose face is on the money, you're through. And just to back up what that brother was saying, like this, our people that are so-called successful and made it, it's all an illusion. Because how do you have money but you don't have access to the money? I gotta go get permission to go get money from the bank.
Even when you try to withdraw more than like 10 bands, they ask you why, fill out this form. Submit this to the IRS. But it's your money, but you got to get permission to get your own money out the bank.
You can't even carry, like $5 because you get pulled over with it without a receipt or something to be there. They can confiscate that.
This is not yours.
All right. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his soul. You say it was the other nation coming into Jake's neighborhood with their business. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. In hell he was lifted up. In hell he lifted up his eyes, being tormented and seeing Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom.
And that hell is Esau in slavery in the kingdom. Because as brothers always say, heaven and hell represents a condition. When you're in your heavens, you're in rulership. When you're in hell, you're in the condition we're in.
Verse 24, and he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in the water and cool my tongue.
And that's Esau begging for mercy in the kingdom, which is going to be no mercy. You just forget about begging. You're going to have to drink that cup to the dregs. And we even see this spirit with these Edomites now. Just look back with 911. That's when Esau gets attacked, that's when he wants Jake to come and help defend him. Come help whenever anything bad happens, especially now. With this government collapsing and Nero 47 being a tyrant, that's when Esau's like, we're all being oppressed by the elites. We all got to come together.
I said, now they won't come together, and now y'all saying, we've been so. We laugh at y'all, sir. You go on TikTok and Instagram, they just crying, weeping, crashing out, living, right? We love it. We love it.
Jake's brushing his teeth in the morning listening to that laughing.
Jake eating and drinking and laughing at them, and they just any old people.
That big spit.
Why I am tormented.
Oh.
That was the
Oh, you keep reading down.
For I am tormented in this flame. That flame is that very intense and cruel slavery that they're gonna go through.
Double of what we got. And you know, you see, you know, and we still don't even know half of the stuff that Esau did to us in the past and is doing to us now. So in the kingdom, he's going to get double of what we got, which, you know, he's going to wish to get the slavery that we got compared to what he's going to give.
We still don't even know we're eating. We find out every other day that there's something else in the food. The devil's got a lot to pay for.
Honestly, you know what I think? I pray this isn't the case, but I bring it up all the time. I feel like he makes these Bibles out of pork paper. I wouldn't be surprised when we find that.
Wow, the way you think on it.
Yeah.
That's true. I never thought of it.
This devil has soap made out of swine.
Yeah.
Toothpaste as well.
Toothpaste, yeah.
The bristle of the toothbrush.
God damn.
He's obsessed with swine.
Vegan brush.
Yeah, go back to the toothbrush. You gotta get a vegan brush and you're finished now. We in captivity. Jake vegan brush.
Oh, man.
Alright, verse 25. But Abraham said, Son, remember that thou in thy lifetime receivest thy good things.
Hey, you had your time to rule. You had the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven. And you know, I gotta say, Esau had a good run. You were ruling as the Greeks. You had the Roman Empire. And for the last 500 years or so, you've been kicking everybody's ass. Having more than, you know, the majority of people on this planet could ever hope for. So, you know, what do you got to complain about? Hey, as we always say, to you Edomites, you so-called white people out here, hey, max out your credit cards, do as much blow, you know, go do a backflip out of an airplane with a parachute full of balloons or something. I don't know. Whatever you got in your mind, go do it. Because once we get our hands on you, hey, if you breathe funny, you're gonna get put down.
All right. And likewise, that is evil thing.
Us in our captivity, you know, and you know, Jake. One thing that can be said is Jake drank that cup. Jake took that shot, and you know, with a straight face, right?
Straight talk about.
Like Denzel Washington in that movie Glory when he was getting whipped. He had a straight face and that tear was just coming down.
But now he is comforted and thou art tormented.
And us in our heavens and you in your hell.
And besides all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which will pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from there, from thence.
You can stop there. That great gulf fixed, like even which it wouldn't be the case, even if the Israelite wanted to help you like that, there's no reason to or no will to. We're not even going to be the same species of beings. We're going to be extraterrestrial beings. You're still going to be a man.
A man.
You gotta look at it like this. Lord said he's gonna put his spirit on us.
Yeah.
So you ain't getting no help.
Jake not angry enough right now.
No, right.
You just know a little bit of what this devil's done.
Right.
And Jake ultimately has compassion. You know, even in the ancient world, the Lord told us to smite everybody, just put everything down. Jake leaving this person alive. Jake not angry enough, man. The Lord, that's why, as the brother said, the Lord said he's going to put his fury on us. They're going to know my fury. The Lord's going to use us as his, the same way he's using you Edomites right now to punish us. He's going to use us to punish you. Hey, this real quick, this St. James.
That's the spirit. Reveille.
There you go.
The cavalry. Let the cavalry come in. And the cavalry's about to come in.
This St. James chapter 2, verse 13. It says, "For he shall have judgment without mercy, that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment." Right? So, devils, if you treated us fairly, but y'all like to say, oh, we ended slavery. Y'all should thank us. We took y'all from Africa. Well, hey, whatever you did to us, we're going to do to you double. So if you're so proud of your history, you have nothing to worry about. Right? All right, if you treated the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans fairly, then you have a fair treatment coming to you. You should be happy.
Yeah, why do you always feel so guilty about your past if you said you didn't do anything wrong to us?
Right. And that's why Trump went into the museum, the Smithsonian, and did what he did.
Yeah, to take erasing the history of slavery, because that's one thing they always say about slavery in America. That's America's original sin. This whole country was built off of the great robbery, murder, and even until this day, the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors, all the way until us. And as I said, the brother Kaya's favorite precepts in Wisdom of Solomon, they made our life a marketplace and a place for gain. Everything is designed to just be a parasitic suck off of the children of Israel.
I got a precept real quick.
Yeah.
Back you up. This is James 5.
You can break it down.
I'm just gonna go straight to the point. Because in 5 it says, it's talking about Esau. It says, "Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been warm tongued. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter." Verse 6, it says, "Ye have condemned and killed the just," going into the Israelites, man. Giving us, hard bondage. You know what I'm saying? Basically, breaking our backs in, man. And literally killing us, man. And then the rest of the scripture says, "And he doeth not resist you." Man, we ain't even did you nothing. You know what I'm saying? But you still act us. You won't let us basically have any peace, man. So the Lord's gonna have to bring that peace. All right.
It reminds me of what Charleston White said in that video a couple of weeks ago. He's like, everybody hates the so-called white man. The only best friend you got is the nigga in America, and you treat him like shit.
I'm still holding that for root, but they got something a little bit lower if you want to grab it.
Kind of. We'll go to that Baruch. You got that 2 Thessalonians? Read that real quick. We'll go back.
This book of 2 Thessalonians 1, verse 6. "Seeing it is a righteous thing with Yahawah to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you."
Backing up what the brother brought out in James. Seeing it as a righteous thing, it's a good thing, a great thing with the Most High to recompense tribulation to them that trouble you. So it's a righteous thing for the Lord to, YAHAWASHI to come back, take you Edomites down, set up his elect, and us ruling over you. That's just and fair. It says in the law, what, an eye for eye, a tooth for a tooth. So all this, only somebody that knew that they screwed over people should say everybody should come together and let's forgive and forget.
Right.
That's something a guilty man would say that doesn't want to receive his recompense. Right. Well, your recompense is exactly what you're going to receive. And as we've been saying, it's going to be double. And as it says in Lamentation, you're going to drink that cup. It's going to be passed down to you. And you're going to drink it to the dregs. Like some old English, you're going to drink that scuttle. That scuttle at the bottom. You're going to have to take it to the head.
They beat us. They still beat us. They ain't quit.
Yeah, they saying we should come together while still violating them.
Right. It's not like they stop.
But you can get yours.
This Isaiah 51 and 22. It says, "Thus said thy Lord, Yahawah, and thy power that bringeth the cause of his people. Behold, I have taken out of thine hand a cup of trembling."
That's the spirit. That's the one I was thinking about.
"Even the dregs of the cup of my fury, thou shalt no more drink it again, but I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee, which have said to thy soul, Bow down, that we may go over. And thou hast laid thy body as the ground and as the street to them that will move."
You got it.
Yeah, so basically, like the brother said, they're going to drink the dregs of the cup, the same cup they gave us. All right, but we're going to reward them double. All right, so they're going to get and like you said, we don't know everything that's been done, all the wicked and the evil that this devil has done. We only know a small portion. All right, so
they're gonna get that 100% times 2. You got it.
God, you're gonna get this treatment. I remember that movie, Birth of a Nation, where the Jake was trying to starve himself to death, so he wouldn't eat. So what they did is they took that cornmeal and made it a paste and broke Jake's teeth and stuck a funnel in his mouth and force fed him. And that's just what we know they did to our people. So imagine that times 2. But you're gonna drink that cup down to the dregs, and you know you're gonna get seconds. You're gonna do a cake stand with that cup. Come on, we're gonna hold it. And even when you choking and it's coming out of the side, it's gonna be a lot of lamentations and you got it, man.
This Revelation 18, instead of 5. It says, "For her sins have reached unto the heaven, and the Most High have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she had filled to her double."
You got it.
But that's just backing up that point of them having to get double of what they have done to us.
As the brother brought out, earlier, that this cup is running over with oil with us preaching this word. That cup of slavery is going to be running over for you. That's a cup that's never going to run out until that 1,000 years are up.
This is Revelation 13 and 9. And it says, "If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, and he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patient and fate of the saints."
And that's straight to the point. He that hath an ear, let him hear, vocab. Because I know you tried to say, oh, that doesn't mean that. That's exactly what it means. I can't think of any other interpretation for that. He that leadeth into captivity, the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism in America, shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword, the whole history of our people. And we're just talking about this current rulership you have. We ain't even gotten to the Greeks or the Romans. You still have to pay for Cain. You have to pay for all that. So that's compounded interest of slavery that's coming to you.
Okay, I said it don't mean that. Guess what? In the kingdom, you're gonna understand the scriptures perfectly. Right? You're gonna be able to break down every verse dealing with captivity and slavery. It's gonna be a reality.
You're gonna live the scriptures.
You're gonna have the curses. All you Amalekites that want to be Jews, you're gonna have the curses of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, Deuteronomy. Well, we get it.
Congratulations.
Isaiah 60.
I'm in Isaiah.
Isaiah 60. You can start verse 10.
Huh?
37.
Yeah, 37. This is Deuteronomy 30, verse 7. "And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies, and on them that hate thee will persecute thee."
Right. All of the curses of Deuteronomy 28 chapter, verse 15 to 68, that's going to be reality for you heathen, especially you Edomites. All right. You're going to have people over you, ruling over you, telling you what you can eat, what you can't eat. All right. You're going to have to go to your enemy for everything, the want of everything. All right. You're going to be a Jew. You're going to have the curses of the Israelites. All right. Now, you're not going to have the reward or the blessings, but you're going to know what it feels like to be under a divine curse. Right? It's going to last 1,000 years.
God, backing up that. What did he say to the rich man? Hey, you had your time to live, sumptuously. So, hey, when time's up, time's up.
I want to say to you, we don't eat my camps.
You have to make us do that. Just for our amusement.
I'm not even going to do that. I don't want any fun in the kingdom.
Think about that. Just a bunch of Edomites. Like, look, we'll be coming out. All praises to whatever weirdo Molech they worship, man.
No, that didn't be our guy. You can do that on your plantation. But on my plantation, you're going to have to smile. I want to see you smile. No matter, even if you're getting beat, you got to smile.
Oh, no. See, I told you, when I told you last time, I said in my plantation, it's going to be illegal to smile.
Yeah, you're going to have to smile on mine.
It's gonna be illegal.
Hey, don't smile. You better grow some teeth and smile. Where's your teeth at? You knocked them out, Lord. Well, you better find some.
That's
teeth to put
crazy.
in
That's
there.
crazy, man.
Hey, I can't make them just knock it back out.
I said if they're caught smiling at me, you slacking on your pimp. Like, wait, I'm not doing a good job fucking you up. All right, cool. Turn the heat up.
Hey, that's gonna be up already.
Don't slack.
Yeah.
Nasty.
Quick precept to back you brothers up. This is Revelation 3 and verse 9. It says, "Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee." Right? So just going into backing your brothers up, going into Amalek, saying that they basically, J double O's and they not. But the Lord at the end of the day is going to have them come and worship us. You know what I'm saying? Being Lords over them, rulers over them, man. That's what's coming with, the kingdom of heaven.
Bring out that Isaiah to back him up. Where it said, they shall come and bow down at thy feet. You can start at verse 10 and then read down to 16.
It's Isaiah 60, and starting at 10, it says, "And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I had mercy on thee."
Favor, it's beginning right now with the elect waking up, then comes the salvation, and then the ultimate favor in the kingdom, where it says, "The strangers shall come unto thee and build up thy houses and thy walls, and kings shall minister unto thee." Slaves in the kingdom of heaven. That role reversal.
Verse 11, it says, "Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and their kings may be brought."
Our gates are going to be open to constantly get our tithes from you. The first fruits of everything you have, the forces of the Gentiles, your gold, your silver, your frankincense, your myrrh, your stones, everything, your son daughters, all that, your other children for slavery. It's all gonna be like a vacuum being sucked into Jerusalem.
Verse 12, it says, "For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted."
For the nation or kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yeah, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Because not only will we be able to physically lay hands on you, but when you read in Zechariah 14, it says that the heathens that don't want to come up and worship on our high holy days, we can cause their lands not to rain. We're going to be able to cast angels on you to curse you, control the weather. Everything these elites do on the left-hand side with their technology, we're going to be able to do with spiritual powers. There's going to be no escape.
And it's going to be done in righteousness. We're not going to ruin the earth like injustice.
Verse 13, it says, "The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make that the place of my feet glorious."
Keep going, and this is the point to back what the brother brought out in Revelation 3.
Verse 14, it says, "The sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel."
As that brother brought out in Revelation 3, it says, those that say they are Jews and are not shall come bending down and worshiping at your feet. And as it says in this Isaiah 16:14, the sons also of them that afflicted thee, first and foremost with Esau, shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet, and they shall call thee the city of Yahawah, the Zion, the Holy One of Israel. And you don't want to accept or admit that we're Israelites now, well, that's going to be the first priority in the kingdom. Reverencing us as the sons of God.
Verse 15, whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellence and a joy of many generations. Verse 16. Verse 16, thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles and shalt suck the breast of the kings. Thou shalt know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior, and thou Redeemer, the Almighty One of Jacob.
Kind of straight to the point. What's that precept?
Yeah,
You can break it down too.
it's Jeremiah 49 and 12. For thus says Yahawah, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of the cup have assuredly drunken. And art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished? Question mark. Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. And that's showing that Esau even will drink of that cup of affliction. There is no getting out of this cup. The Lord has already said you're going to drink of it. We know he's not a man that he should lie.
This is Isaiah 14 and 2. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Straight to the point. They shall rule over their oppressors. Which chapter was that in?
That was Isaiah 14.
I know in another one it says too, where it's like, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and queens thy nursing mothers, and they shall lick up the dust of thy feet. Which they're literally not going to be licking up the dust of our feet. That's just for you freaks out there. That's just symbolic for them being in a low position, bowing down to us and reverencing us. 49. You got it?
Yeah.
You bring it out real quick.
It's Isaiah 49 and 22. It says, thus says the Lord, Yahawah, behold, I will lift up my hand to the Gentiles and set up my standard to the people, and they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders. And kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord Yahawah, for they shall not be ashamed that wait for me.
Hey, the faith and the patience of the saints to get that dominion and rulership over these nations. And hey, you Rothschilds, you Rockefellers, you hidden families that we haven't seen or heard the names of. There's going to come a point to where you're going to be on all fours on your face worshiping us. As hard as that is to believe. Okay, seeing is believing, you're definitely going to see it.
And I was just going to add on to what he was saying. It's so wicked now, in today's time, he used the verse for literally now. So he'll tell Edom if he's remorseful about doing X, Y, Z, lick my boot or kiss my boot.
Go back to work Monday.
Yeah,
Right.
He's still being oppressed, and he still do it to this day. That's crazy, man.
We're supposed to have that for Ruth, but you brothers got just go to the last round.
This is Sirach 33 and 25. It says, if thou set thy servant to labor, thou shalt find rest. But if thou let him go idle, he shall seek liberty.
And that's what happened, in the past. After Jake took over the Roman Empire and ran those devils into the mountains, they had time to sit there and plot and scheme. And they came down, started wiggling their way into the royal families and positions of power, had the Renaissance, and here we are today. The first part said, if thou shalt put thy servant to work, thou shalt have rest. Keep him constantly occupied, as he keeps, these Americans occupied. That's why a lot of them don't even have time to think about rebellion or anything outside of a 9-to-5 when you're working 3 9-to-5s and living paycheck to paycheck.
And it says, a yoke and a collar do bow the neck. So are the tortures and torment for an evil servant. Send him to labor that he be not idle, for idleness teaches much evil.
They got that saying, what? Idle hands are the devil's playground.
And it says, set him to work as it is fit for him. If he be not obedient, put more heavy feathers.
And you already gonna get double on you. So that's gonna be quad feathers on you. You're gonna have to be, this is me, you're gonna have to be doing that pickaxe breaking rocks, but you're gonna have those, you know how they used to put the ball and chain? You're gonna have them on your wrists, but you're gonna have to find a way to break rocks. And that's it. Even if I want to give you a pickaxe, some days I'm gonna be like, hey, use your fists to break the rocks. Use your face.
Grab your brother. Grab your brother.
Use the hand of the kindness as a pickaxe.
Grab your
nose. The nose says the animal. You have one year. Any other brothers got any precepts or kind?
Yeah, this Jeremiah 30:16. It says, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them, shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all they, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey.
You can break it down.
I'll read 17. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, said the Lord Yahawah, because they called thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, no man seek it after. Yeah, but it says, and all thine, therefore all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them. So when you go into Psalms 83, like the Lord lists our enemies, it's chiefly you Edomites, man. So we were devoured by you and everyone other you, all the other nations, y'all gonna be devoured too, because y'all gonna get double that cup. That's the point.
God, it's the book of Baruch, chapter 4, and verse 23. And it reads, it says, for I send you out with mourning and weeping, for Yahawah will give you to me again, with joy and gladness forever. Like as now the neighbors of Zion have seen your captivity, so shall they see shortly your salvation from our power.
That's beginning right now, you know, as it says in Psalms 50, and I will put them in order before you. You're seeing the elect wake up and preach this word in truth, and, you know, bringing about the end of your rulership, as it says in Matthew 24, verse 14. You know, this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Hence why Esau wants to bring the fame of the word to try to avert prophecy. But what does it say in Acts? We can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. By you bringing about the fame of the word, you're just fulfilling prophecy. You're caught dead to rights.
God, and it reads, it says, which shall come upon you with great glory and brightness of the everlasting. My children suffer patiently the wrath that has come upon you from Yahawah, for thine enemy has persecuted thee, but shortly thou shalt see his destruction, and shall tread upon his neck.
And, you know, we can see that these days are being shortened quickly. You know, this year's almost up. Like, it felt like January 2 months ago. And I've noticed within even my daily life, it's like the days are getting shorter, and then the hours within the days are getting shorter. It's like, okay, so I woke up, I'm at work, and then it's only a couple of hours, and it feels like, man, I don't even have time to finish the job. Like, I'm running out of time. So the Lord is speeding up the times for the elect's sake, and shortly we are going to see the destruction of this devil. And then the next part, tread upon his neck. When the elect come off those chariots and, you know, punch through those holes like Omni-Man and drag you out of those rat's nests, like the rats you are, and put the cold chains on you.
I'm going to jump down to verse 30 and read a little bit of that. All right, Baruch 4 and 30, and it reads, it says,
35,
it says, take a good heart, O Jerusalem, for he that gave thee that name will comfort thee. Miserable are the cities that afflicted thee, and rejoiced at thy fall. Miserable are the cities which thy children served, Miserable is she that receiveth thy sons.
It's saying how miserable is America that received us, mistreated us, and, had joy over our downfall. Shortly, we're going to see your downfall. And as brothers have been saying, whenever we see you Edomites get on social media and crying and everything, that brightens my day more than anything. To see you finally get everything you deserve. And it hadn't even gotten bad yet. You've already broken down. So imagine when it gets worse. You Edomites aren't built for pressure. As you always say, I don't know how they're going to make it through the 1,000 years. You're gonna be like it's gonna be like Weekend at Bernie's. You're gonna be dead, but it's gonna be a spirit in you having the body still working.
Verse 33 it says, for she rejoiced at thy ruin and was glad of thy fall, so shall she be grieved for her own desolation. For I will take away the rejoicing of her great multitude, and her pride shall be turned into mourning.
Exactly what we're seeing. This is an Edomite lady I was watching the other day, and she literally looked like a corpse talking. That's how bad she was going. She was like, "This ain't America anymore. We ain't supposed to be struggling like this." Hey, bitch. That's what it is, and that's what it's going to continue to be.
Verse 35, it says, for fire shall come upon her from the everlasting, long to endure, and she shall be inhabited of devils for a great time.
When those nuclear missiles hit this place, and then it becomes that desolate wasteland, that eternal memorial where only those desert creatures are going to dwell here for. But
this Sirach 25:7, it says, there be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy. In the tent I will utter with my tongue. A man that had joy of his children,
which Israel's finally going to have in the kingdom. What does it say? A little one shall become 1,000. Jacob will be able to sit down and actually, enjoy being, a father, a mother. You don't have to worry about my kids are going to school with some PDF files with green hair, teaching them about donkeys.
Trying to be child support in the kingdom.
Oh yeah.
No rubbers. Able to produce. All right, be fruitful and multiply like we were intended to do.
Children are all going to be righteous. All of them. Princes and princesses. Everything you ever wanted to do, you'll be able to do it and then some. And if you want to sleep till noon, you can sleep till noon. You don't have to get up at 6 in the morning.
Not sleeping at all.
Yeah, not sleep at all.
All right.
it says, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy.
Straight to the point. He that liveth to see the fall of his enemies. And we're seeing the beginning of that fall right now. And from here on out, it's going to get sweeter and sweeter watching you suffer more and more. Okay, so with that, we hope sincere Akim and Akwak are edified by another live camp. But before we get out of here, as always, we're going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to
YAHAWAH, bahasham, YAHAWASHI, bahasham, rakakwadash.
Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the 4 corners of the globe, being brothers enduring to the end. Ababa ball,
Ababa ball,
Ababa ball,
Ababa ball,
Ababa ball,
Ababa ball.
Kwam Yasharala,
Kwam Yasharala.
Shalawam.
Shalawam.